Ninja.
Yeah, see Javier here, we've got a World's Top 64, we've got Liverpool, Offenbach Regional, Top 32s, and a Madrid Special Event Top 4. So actually coming off a Top 64 finish at the recent World Championships in Hawaii. So a player with a lot of achievements. And Bert here, well, I told you he's been around for a while. Look at some of these achievements. World's Top 8, EUIC Top 8, World's Top 16, OCIT Top 16. There's a category of player out there, someone who's been around for a long time and had a huge amount of success. And you can tell these players because when we put their achievements on the screen, we don't even have room for any regional achievements. We only talk about internationals and worlds. And when all of their achievements are ICs and worlds like Bert here, that tells you everything you need to know. Here come the prizes. Oh, Javier has prized his one of Mew, which could be a little bit annoying. Otherwise, nothing terrible, I think, in those prizes.
Yeah, I think it will also come down to which starter Pokemon both of them choosing. We see the Fist Bump, and there's the Froakie that I mentioned just a second ago, and the Regidrago. Perfect start here as well. We see that Javier actually goes first. I think it was a Blood Moon that they pulled out of their top deck, but I see a very playable hand. With that Pokestop, I see a Rare Candy, I see the Earthen Vessel to accelerate or to get one energy in your discard pile. That looks at what he's eyeing at and gets you more energies out of the deck as well at the same time.
Yeah, so we got the Earthen Vessel there. We're going to get rid of something. It is going to be an energy, of course. Star Portal from Palkia V-Star accelerates free energy from your discard pile to your water Pokemon. Important to note, the last Palkia game we saw on stream yesterday, we saw that Star Portal worked, but the player was missing their energy attachments for the turn. What you really want to do is get your turn attachment, and then Star Portal is an extra little burst of energy on top of, as a nice little bonus. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one comes around. And, like you said, that's the deck. You've got Greninja EX, which is your big fighting type, single energy, 170 search any card. And then you've got your Palkia V-Star that does 20 damage extra for each bench Pokemon of yours and your opponents with that Star Portal. But then we've got other options like your Radiant Greninja, which you were saying how much you love that Moonlight Shuriken, doing 60 to the 90 to 2 different Pokemon. And then we got things like Dust Noir as well.
Yeah, it might not really come into effect here against those big, I don't want to say big basics, but the V and the V-Stars having enough damage to overcome any of those. A huge, huge Pokestop. 3 hits. You have a Nest Ball to get another Pokemon into play, which is amazing here. And I also liked how you brought up that the players were missing attachment for turn, but Earthen Vessel is such a great card. You had 1 energy that you can already discard. You get 2 out of your deck, so you have 3 energies in total that you can play around with. Attach 1, potentially discard another card, and it's just really great to have here this early on specifically. We'll see the Nest Ball, and I'm assuming that this early on you would probably want to get one of your Palkias into play.
Well, Palkia or Radiant Greninja are generally the choices at this stage. I think Palkia V, yeah, is the better option here. Because, both of these are turn 2 decks. Both of these decks don't really do very much turn 1. So it's very much set up turn 1, and then turn 2 is where you really start rolling. So going first, actually a really nice advantage for Javier here. And there is an option, if Bert were to fill up his bench, then there is actually a possibility of a turn 2 Palkia KO on a Regidrago. So Bert might have to control his bench a little bit for that reason.
That's a very good point. I was just playing this matchup last weekend at a league challenge, and this was exactly what my opponent did. Limit their bench space, or the number of Pokemon they bench, and then limit how much damage you can do. And I was just short of 20 damage to take out a Regidrago. And that might be something that we see here. Not overbench early on. 1 Teal Mask Ogerpon could be enough in the first turn, and then preventing the KO and go really hard into that second turn.
The problem is the magic number is 3. If Bert benches 3 Pokemon and Javier fills up his bench, you've got 8 bench Pokemon, that's 160, plus a 60 base is 220, which is enough to KO. So if Bert benches 3 Pokemon here, Javier could potentially get a Palkia V-Star KO on the Regidrago. Good news is Bert has a spare Regidrago. So if one goes down, he's got 1, but you really don't want to give up 2 prizes early. So the only way to guarantee that doesn't happen here is to fix yourself at a bench of 2 and no more.
Yeah, really excited to see. We're currently another deck search. Let's see what he's looking for and what we have in the deck. I see a good variety. I mean, we saw the prizes, so everything else is in the deck, of course. Just Bert didn't have access to the prizes just yet. So double checking which pieces he has to plan out the remaining game here. And I think, did I see Fire Energy in hand? That could be huge as an early attachment here. Otherwise, using that Ogerpon Teal Mask ability to not only attach energy, but draw another one as well. There's actually no energy in hand.
No energy in hand. The way the deck works is you get your Regidrago V-Star, it copies the attacks of Dragon Pokemon in your discard pile, and you accelerate energy by attaching to Teal Mask Ogerpon and energy switching it over. But of course, that we just lost 2 grass energy and got a Nest Ball, which is not ideal.
We actually got the Earthen Vessel, which allows us to pull out 2 energies out of the deck. So yes, 2 grass energy gone, but we have the Earthen Vessel, get a fire and a grass. Very typical first turn search there from the Earthen Vessel. Probably attaching the fire energy to Regidrago and using the ability to attach 1 energy to Ogerpon. And you already have 2 energies in play. And exactly as we predicted, it looks like Bert is choosing to limit his bench to only 2 Pokemon because 3 was the magical number you brought up.
Yeah, and we have an energy switch in hand, so you could move the grass energy over this turn. I would imagine that won't happen because there is a very small chance of a gust on the Regidrago and then, you know, putting a lot of damage on one that's already got 2 energy. You would rather try and make sure that doesn't happen, but no, we are going to see the energy switch coming over. Now, yes, okay, on to the active, and this is what I'm talking about. It's making sure that your energy is spread out so that if Javier gets a big hit, there isn't one obvious target. Oh, we do have a 3rd bench now. So that, and now we have a 4th bench. So this is basically Bert going, right, I've benched, I'm in range. As soon as the 3rd one goes down, I can put the 4th one down. My start isn't good enough. I'm going Squawkabilly.
Yeah, interesting part, though, is one counter aspect here is that, yes, overbenched, you might say, and the Regidrago can be KO'd, but it was really smart using the energy switch to actually distribute the energies into 2 different Regidrago, and then if either of them gets KO'd, he still is left with 1 Regidrago with 1 energy.
Yeah, it's why you could never put both on the same one. Even if it's on the bench, all we need is gusting, and that's bad. Here we go for Professor's research here. So that's going to get another... Oh, excuse me, this is the Squawk and Seize, which is getting a bunch of new cards. And, I mean, look, Bert basically here is going, I want to set up. We see another Teal Dance here. We've now got Regidrago V-Star in hand, ready to go. Passes over to Javier here, and quite frankly, can you get a big KO with Palkia V-Star?
Yeah, I mean, we will have to find a way to retreat, find a second water energy, find the V-Star. It's quite a few pieces, but...
And 2 bench Pokemon.
2 bench Pokemon, but it's not impossible for the stack. We actually see a rare candy, and is that a Dusknoir that could go immediately in? Palkia V-Star also in hand, so has quite a few Pokemon, but...
Not much draw is the problem here.
Yeah.
We've got Rare Candy Dusknoir, but then we've got Blood Moon Ursaluna. Oh, there's an Irida. Okay, so Irida could... And there is a water energy in hand, so you could... Oh, and there is an Earthen Vessel, so yeah. So we can kind of Irida for a Radiant Greninja and use that to draw a couple of cards and hopefully get something going here. But the draw is awkward.
Yeah, and there's also the potential for Irida into Buddy Buddy Puffin to get 2 more of the Duskull onto your bench to fill up your bench that way. Froakie's already out, so you can't search for that. There's a first evolution, and on top of that, there's a Pokestop, of course.
Yeah, so here we go. We got a Rare Candy. We got a Nest Ball. Oh, and a Trekking Shoes. Wonderful Pokestop there. Exactly what Javier was looking for. And Trekking Shoes, of course, is some item-based draw. So that's going to help very nicely indeed. Question. Oh, here we go straight away.
That's 2 Pokestops in a row with 3 hits. You might be thinking that must be lucky, but of course this deck is very heavy on items, so it's not unlikely that you would hit them this early on when it's still full. We get the Trekking Shoes, we get the Nest Ball, and can just search out another Pokemon here to put on the bench.
Now, we're actually getting pretty close to what we need for the KO. We've actually got Nest Ball plus Duskull in hand, so that's the 4 bench Pokemon needed for 8 bench Pokemon, which is the number. We do have an energy to attach to Palkia here. What we need is a way to pivot Froakie out of the active, which you could do using Star Portal, but that is a very suboptimal use of your V-Star power. So you'd really rather not. So we get rid of 1 energy. Okay, now this is better. So now we got 2 energy in the discard. And if we can discard 1 more, I don't mind using Star Portal for free and using 1 as a pivot if I can get 2 what I like to call real attachments.
Yeah, and also because Bert not only had 3 but 4 bench Pokemon, we technically only need 1 more on Javier's side here, and the reader would also give us access to the prime catcher, right? So that could be one way to pivot. I mean, and pick out especially the prime target should be the one with the fire energy, because that's the required one to attack here, and they have less fire energies in deck.
Right, so we have 2 cards drawn. It was prime catcher. That is a pivot and gets you to Regidrago V. So, and we have an energy in hand. So look, if Javier wants it here, you have to bench a Pokemon, and then all you need to do is prime catcher up the fire energy Regidrago and take a big turn 1 KO. Oh, I don't mind this. Now, what we're doing here is using Dusknoir to attack into the bench Regidrago V, bringing that into range for later, and then we're basically thinking, what if I use Radiant Greninja? What was 13 add 9? Is that 22?
That's 22.
Ah, feels like the perfect number.
So we see the Star Portal, and it looks like it's free energies going into that Radiant Greninja, I assume, here. Oh, it's the Froakie. He wants to use Mirage Barrage.
Do we have access? We have Rare Candy. Oh, there's an Ultra Ball in hand. So we can Ultra Ball for the Greninja, Rare Candy into that Greninja, and then you can use Mirage Barrage, which is kind of the same thing as Radiant Greninja, except instead of 90-90, it's 120-120.
That's huge damage, especially in this matchup. Like, the price race is really rough, and going so early with a huge board state and taking the first knockout, going ahead in prizes, is a huge, huge advantage for Javier. And I'm really excited to see how this one plays out. We see an Irida for a Palkia. I suppose you can discard that with the Ultra Ball next to then get the Greninja, because that's the prime target after that Star Portal for free into your Froakie.
Yeah, and another heads-up play here, which we see a lot of these Palkia players doing. You store Portal onto Froakie, because it is a water Pokemon, and then you evolve it into your fighting type Greninja, which is not, but you've already accelerated the energy. And look, we're sitting here saying 4-bench Pokemon plus Palkia V-Star. That is not the easiest thing to pull off. But what Javier's actually pulled off is your Rare Candy Dusknoir, Rare Candy Greninja, and then you're still KOing a Regidrago, but you're also putting 120 onto the active. So thank goodness Bert did fill up his bench a little bit, because in the end, you know, we saw in the early turn he was trying to avoid it. He then went into it, and actually Javier's pulled off a much less likely but much more fun play.
Yeah, we see the Palkia also hitting the bench, and there's the final confirmation of the Ultra Ball. And if you want to be left with one card in your hand, I think Prime Catcher is an amazing card to have. Of course, you're going to pull some prizes here, and we have always a Pokestop and other potential to draw more cards. But Prime Catcher, not having to use that and still have such a huge turn 2 here, basically, is amazing.
And you see the real advantage here of Javier going first. Javier gets to attack before Bert has been able to evolve. If Bert had gone first, we could potentially have 2 Regidrago V-Star here, and there's no KOs, there's just a bunch of damage. So here we go, the play as we expected it, and Bert is just double-checking the wording on that card, but I've got bad news for you, Bert. Your Regidrago on the bench is KO'd, the one in the active, and that's crucial, because that is now a very easy KO for a Palkia V-Star on a future turn.
Not only that, but Shinobi Blade, 120 plus 170 is 290. That is enough to take the Palkia V-Star. It's a perfect setup here. Sometimes you're missing those crucial knockouts later on in the game, but with the 120 already on that Regidrago, which is kind of forced to evolve here, right? Because otherwise you're still another turn behind. So, and then just setting up the KO on the other side. Is there any way to take out the Greninja EX? I think
no.
With the V-Star power from Giratina, maybe?
You would need, but you need 10 cards in the lost zone
to
activate
absolutely.
that.
That's not an Nexus.
It's not the way Regidrago decks work. So I'm basically not, and that's not what they do. They hit 280 with Giratina. That is the big attack the Regidrago decks have, hitting 280 with Giratina. But Greninja has 310.
Yeah, so there's absolutely, thanks for that, there's absolutely no way to get around the Greninja KO here, especially with what is on the board right now. So yeah, Greninja will just have another turn, and that Shinobi Blade also giving you access to another card out of your deck will be huge.
And that's what's ridiculous here. Like, you're not only doing 170 damage, you get to search literally any card from your deck you like, ready to use it on your next turn. And, you know, Greninja's another card, you know, very much like Galvantula and Espathra, that there was a little period there where it wasn't really seeing much play at all, but it had so much potential. And since we moved into this Stellar Crown format, we've had a bunch of players who have gone, yeah, Palkia Greninja Dusknoir is really good. We do see the Pheasant Dipty coming down from Bert here, so at least gets to draw 3 more cards.
Yeah, we were talking about revenging KOs here, but it's actually quite a long way to get there because you only have 1 energy in play. You're missing the fire energy, but you now have access to with the Earthen Vessel, but you will still need an energy switch this turn to actually get the required 2 grass, 1 fire onto your Regidrago V-Star. And then, I mean, another option would be a boss play here where you'd be like, yeah, I can't take out the Greninja, but if I want to stay in that race, I might as well take out the Palkia V-Star potentially with the 280 damage, or start setting up KOs on the other Pokemon.
Yeah, there's a lot of options. They all seem quite nice. We do get a Teal Mask Ogerpon getting the energy on, and there we see an energy switch moving it over. There's the required fire energy, as you phrased it. I like that phrase. And now we are ready to go. We see another energy switch onto the Regidrago V on the bench. It's holding a boss's orders in hand, so could attack into Greninja or could take out something else. It is the Palkia V. I like this play.
Yeah, Palkia V, an easy target here, can take that out. Let's see, I think he's pointing out at the attack from his discard pile to make sure both players are aware which attack has been used here. Potentially set up some late game KOs as well. So let's see, he's actually pointing at that. Ooh, Dragapult, so 200, not quite enough for the KO, but you can pick up the KO on the bench, right?
Yes, the bench Duskull could go down here, choosing not to. Now, this is where we see the really good players. So the math's going to take some explanation. Some of it's easy. Greninja here goes down to 280. Oh, look, that's how much Giratina hits. That's quite nice. Pheasant Dipty goes down to 200. Oh, look, that's how much Dragapult's attack naturally hits for. Your Radiant Greninja goes down to 110, which isn't quite such a relevant number.
Triforce from the Kyurem and for
Triforce from the Kyurem. Good catch. So what Bert's doing here is going, look, they're all ready for later. The Duskull's an easy KO, don't care. I'm going after my prize map, and the prize map here is essentially Palkia, Greninja, Pheasant Dipty, with Greninja as an option if we need it, because a Trifrost would KO Duskull and Greninja, but every attack from Bert here needs to take 2 prizes.
And I mean, because the V-Star ability was already used, it's really hard to accelerate energy to the active Pokemon. So you need to find a way to retreat. But I've just mentioned it was amazing to keep that Prime Catcher, and that will come really key here. You can pull up another Pokemon of your choice. I mean, that Pheasant Dipty is a prime target as well. Take another 2 prizes, and you're so far ahead with 2 to 6 prizes, or 2 to 5 prizes, I should say, that it's really hard to, or really difficult to come back from that.
Yeah, that is the goal here. I think Prime Catcher could be good. Let's show a Pokestop first. A switch. Oh, that's another fantastic Pokestop. You get 2 item cards, and the only one you discard is a card which is literally useless at this point.
Yeah, and that Rare Candy in hand, I don't think he has access to another Dusknoir just yet. But the switch is even better than the Prime Catcher. Keep that for later. KO the active V-Star instead of any of the benched Pokemon, which Shinobi Blade to get you another card. I think, if anything, that switch was a prime draw out of that Pokestop.
Yeah, that is the prime option, not the Prime Catcher this turn. You KO the Regidrago, because that's the other thing, right? Now the attack has gone down, so now Bert needs Fire Energy, Grass Energy, Energy Switch, Regidrago V-Star. You need that 4-card combo just to mount an attack this turn.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, we have seen that over and over again pulled off. Let's check the hand. I think there might have been
retrieval, so that will get the 2 energy.
2 energy. That could be a fire and a grass, but we still need an energy switch otherwise. And we need the evolution, as you have said, perfectly explained there. We have a Professor Research on top deck, though.
That's a nice top deck, because right now Bert needs a bunch of cards. Now, the good news is he's got Pheasant Dipty to draw 3 cards. He does have the draws from Teal Mask Ogerpon. He does have the option of Regidrago's V-Star power as well, plus the supporter card, so he's at least going to be drawing a bunch. Oh, we got an Ultra Ball for the V-Star, actually.
Yeah, so we have access to that evolution, we have access to 1 energy, and then you only, from there on, only need 1 more energy switch to be fully loaded up, and that 30 damage earlier, you pointed it out, the math is just working out perfectly in this matchup, and it's really like showing what caliber of players we have on stream here. You might be tempting, hey, I have boss, I can potentially take a knockout, but actually that Greninja is so threatening. I need to make sure that it's prepared for a future KO, and that 30 damage comes in perfectly.
Yeah, anything over 280 represents a real problem for these Regidrago decks, but that's why Dragapult is the de facto attack. And one of the really important things about Dragapult's attack is that you can spread the damage around. It's not 6-to-1 Pokemon, it's 6 damage counters, however you like among the bench. And we saw there Bert actually put 3 Pokemon onto key numbers there by doing so, which was, you know, like I said, a Triforce onto the Greninja might not be an issue, but it's there as an option later on. You needed the 3 on Greninja, you needed the 1 onto Fezandipiti, might as well set up the Greninja as an option as well.
I don't want to go too far ahead here in the game, but depending on which supporter is being used and if there's no hand disruption, we have seen the Prime Catcher, we see a Palkia V-Star, and there's a Squawkabilly on the bench as a prime target to take out in the next turn. So on top of all of that, Bert has to overcome that potential threat as well.
Yeah, he can see the Palkia ready to go. He knows Prime Catcher hasn't been used yet. Now, he does know that these Palkia decks don't play a huge amount of gusting. Counter Catcher is standard, but of course, he's not behind on prizes. Prime Catcher is standard, but it hasn't been used yet, so that's an option. No Boss's Orders in the deck. So Bert is basically saying, I know I lose to Prime Catcher with my Squawkabilly. Can I get around this right now?
The stadium here will at least prevent any future Pokestops to potentially get access to that, to limit the options there. But yeah, it's really difficult to keep all of that in mind. Still has no energy. Oh,
here comes the V-Star power.
Forced to use the V-Star power, and we have seen one being used before, so you can actually, but keep in mind, he just had to discard all of his deck.
I think he's going to play some kind of recovery. I hope he is. Legacy Style lets you discard the top 7 cards of your deck and then put 2 cards from your discard pile into your hand. Does not have to be the ones that got discarded. Oh, and look at here. We've got an Energy Switch and an INO. I mean, I'm really impressed with Bert's play in this game because what we needed here, like we said, you need the INO because at this, you kind of know your opponent's got Prime Catcher or at least is very likely to have it. You've seen multiple Pokestops and you've seen them take prizes in a way that didn't need gusting, which a lot of the time happens if you're saving your Prime Catcher. So Bert there using that information and going, I'm not falling for that. Yeah, love the INO pickup.
Absolutely, and he also had Paul Pad to put 2 more supporters back into deck, so he's not even forced technically to use the Iono, but he has such a huge hand and wants to make sure that there's no potential to deck out. And also, I talked about the hand disruption. There goes your Prime Catcher to the bottom of your deck.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, the Iono here is more about the Prime Catcher than about not decking out. It is, I think you've got your Prime Catcher. I'm not letting you have access to it. Didn't replace the stadium, but did draw into a stadium. And if I'm Bert here, I want rid of that Pokestop because that represents 3 more chances for my opponent to hit Prime Catcher per game.
Yeah, and have we had any chance to see what Javier draw into? Typically after such a huge Iono, if something goes to the bottom of the deck, ideally you find a way to reshuffle your deck and then draw into any potential cards here. He's choosing to play another Energy Switch because you will have, oh no, he just pick 2 energies to discard from that attack.
Yeah. You lost zone 2 energy from the Giratina attack, but it can be lost zone from anywhere. 280 damage, KOs the Greninja here, takes a couple of prizes. Bert is, oh, hang on a second. Triforce wins the game next turn. You put the damage onto Palkia, you put the damage onto Radiant Greninja, and actually you take 4 prizes because you can get the Duskull as well. So Bert very much has an opportunity to win next turn with Trifrost. Javier can only really win this turn with Prime Catcher unless Duskull shenanigans.
Yes, and of course that Iono down to 2 looks actually like 2 Ionos picked up. It has an Ultra Ball, so you can discard your hand. If you have access to that Mew, that would give you 3 fresh cards, and then flip the script for another 3 cards, plus the Pokestop. And the Ultra Ball is so great because it lets you reshuffle that deck and gives you access. We see the Mew on top actually shuffle that deck and then have access to 6 cards plus the Pokestop. Really, I mean, great comeback or great potential to close out this game, actually. But beyond that Prime Catcher, it might be difficult. I mean, he also, there was the option you just pointed out, have the Rare Candy and the Dusknoir and go from there. But this is going to be quite a draw-heavy turn, and let's see what the draws are.
Rare Candy, Dusknoir, Energy will get the win. Prime Catcher, Energy will get the win. You will still need an Energy on the Palkia regardless. So it's an energy plus either Prime Catcher and Rare Candy Dustoir. That's really what we're looking for here. There are a couple of options. So we get 3 cards off the Mew. It's an Irida, an Ultra Ball, and a Nest Ball. Could use Irida to get Prime Catcher, could you not?
Yes, but then you're still short on energy?
Yes, you still need an energy. So we draw 3 cards there. It's a Night Stretcher. So in theory, Night Stretcher gets the energy. You attach it to Palkia. Use Irida to get the Prime Catcher. Bring Squawkabilly up into the active. And that is going to be game 1 for Javier. No surprise there. It is Prime Catcher. Palkia takes game 1. And we're headed off to game 2.
Yeah, that was such a great turn there. Getting the Night Stretcher allows you to not only get a Pokemon back from your discard pile, but also an energy. And that's exactly what was needed here. The draw from both Mew and the Pheasantipede EX. 6 cards got him exactly what he needed, got him back into this game. And as you've said, if it wasn't for him, Bert was ready to take that game next turn.
Yeah, let's go and have a look at the replay. See the key moments from that game 1. Here we go with Javier doing that big Pokestop, and we saw Pokestops went very nicely for Javier in game 1, getting 3 items. We see another Pokestop here getting another 3 items here, and that gave him a lot of what he needed. We see the early Greninja taking a KO on the bench Regidrago after the Dustoir, plus also doing damage, and Bert just double checking, oh no, this is as bad as I was expecting. But that was not over yet. We saw a big KO from this Greninja onto the Regidrago for prizes 3 and 4 from Javier. And with Bert in position, it was a Prime Catcher from Irida onto that Squawkabilly. 6 prizes, clean win.
Absolutely clean win. And I said how important it was to get those knockouts early on. Being so far ahead in the prize trade allows you to close out essentially the game in turn 4 there for Javier. And I mean, it took about 1/3 of our round time, so about perfect time to finish 2 more games, at least with how fast these are going.
Let's hope so. And, you know, if you're Bert there, you're thinking, look, I went second and I was 1 turn away from winning. I know that Trifrost from, you know, copy Kyurem's attack next turn would have got me the win. And it's always a little bit heartbreaking when you go second and lose by 1 turn, but you get to go first here. You get the big setup turn, and then hopefully you can put yourself in a good position. And we could even see an early Trifrost here doing some damage. 2 Night Stretcher, but these Palkia generally play 4. Yeah, there is 4 in the deck, so I think we're cool.
2 major. There's Squawkabilly in your active position. You might as well use that in your next, or when you go next, basically. We see, I think, yeah, Bert going first here. Has the Cleffa active?
Yeah, it's a Cleffa. Cleffa's an awkward one. It's got 30 HP, which is really quite low. And it's got a 0 energy attack that's kind of it's a shuffle draw 6. So you shove a hand into, oh no, sorry, you draw until you have 7. I'm thinking of an old Cleffa. You draw until you got 7 cards in your hand. It's kind of a turn 1 going second, I didn't have a good start attack. It's not a great card going first, because really you go first, you're not allowed to attack, and you want to be using Regidrago turn 2.
Absolutely good point here. The one other thing Cleffa has going for itself is the free retreat. So it's a great basically pivot point here that you can then shuffle into or retreat into any Pokemon of your choice. You might not use the attack. On the other side, with how these games are going, the general plan is to take 2/2/2 prizes basically,
yes,
and then giving up that Cleffa early on. Yes, it's 1 extra prize, but might not really dictate the outcome of the game overall here. Was that an Earthen Vessel? Yes.
That's an Earthen Vessel for, stop me if you've heard this before, a Fire Energy and a Grass Energy.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, I mean, was that giving up the Pheasantipede this early on? I mean, you might have access to it later on in the game, but it's typically a very great comeback card. We just saw how huge it was with the 3 extra draws there. So discarding it this early on, interesting choice.
Yeah, there's 1 Night Stretcher in the deck. You can obviously also get it back using Regidrago's V-Star power. So it's not the easiest deck in which to recover Pokemon, but it is possible. And I think the thing is, it's not doing anything for you now. It's going to be a couple of turns before it turn 3 is probably the earliest chance you're going to have to use it. So let's just pass over to Javier. And look, you've got 2 energy on the board, including the fire. You've got a Regidrago V, and you don't need another because you know it's not getting knocked out this turn.
That's all you can really ask for. And of course, if you have access to Regidrago V-Star, you will have enough draw power anyway. So there's plenty of options here. We see an earthen vessel being played, and that I think is a dust noir being discarded there. So 2 more water energies. I think that's a huge change from what we've seen yesterday. These earthen vessels, these early on, just allowing you to get 2 energies, potentially discard any of them, but also have, because you have 2 energies now, have the option to attach 1 for turn, which come in very close, or can be very important for the middle game.
Yeah, it can absolutely come in handy here. There we get a water energy and another water energy. Love those play. Pokemon Sparkly Energy. We're talking a lot about leagues this weekend. Go to your leagues, get some prize packs. That's the kind of energy in there.
I love the Galaxy Holo here. It looks amazing. I actually got these holos for my deck as well. I love the way they look.
Love it. So here we go with a 2 energy in hand. We need some basic Pokemon at some point. Maybe a Pokestop can get us there.
Yeah.
Actually, there's 1 nest ball. Sorry to cut you off there, Barish. We got 1 nest ball, but that's the only way to get basic Pokemon right now.
But the other thing I think this is 2 Palkia V-Star in hand right now, 1 Night Stretcher in hand. If you use Squawkabilly here and discard all of that, 2 Night Stretcher in your prize, it's going to be really hard to set them up for later in the game.
Oh, you make an excellent point there, Barish. I didn't even think about that one. 2 Night Stretcher in the prizes, 1 in hand, plus 2 Palkia. Yeah, and this deck only plays a 2-2 Palkia V-Star line. You own, a 3-2 line, but you only play 2 Palkia V-Star. That is both of the Palkia V-Star in the deck. And with only 1 Night Stretcher available at that point, and there's no other Pokemon recovery, I'm not sure you even can Squawkabilly here. I mean,
yeah, but it's such a weird trade-off, because you only have the first turn to use that ability, and you kind of want to make use of it while you can. The question is, I mean, Nest Ball was used, so you had access to information that 2 Night Stretchers are gone. But there we go, 2 Palkia V-Star hitting the discard pile.
Now, we talked yesterday about the fact that if you think you've got a big advantage going first in a best of 3 where you really need a win, not a tie, it's worth sometimes conceding a little bit earlier so you've got more time in game 3 knowing you're going first. If I'm Javier, I'm already starting to think potentially along those lines. I'm going to be struggling for Palkia V-Star this game. Maybe I can do a couple of turns with Greninja, start getting my Night Stretcher out of the prizes, getting my Palkia V-Star and rolling from there. That's fine. But as it stands right now, I think Javier's had a rough start to this game. And you're looking at the clock, you've got 20 minutes remaining. You're going to be going first if there's a game 3, and you know you've got an advantage going first. I am not liking my start if I'm Javier here.
Absolutely agree with you here. Potentially conceding as early as turn 1 or 2 could be a huge shift and gives you so much more time for that 3rd game. But, I mean, it looks like it discarded 3 energies at least. That's huge. But if you don't have access to Star Portal...
Okay, so what we've done here, this is a really interesting play. We've attacked with Squawkabilly.
Didn't even think about that.
It does 20 damage and attaches 2 basic energy from your discard pile to your bench Pokemon. With no Palkia V-Star on the horizon here, that is a way to kind of get a pseudo Star Portal. It's not as good as Star Portal. It doesn't even KO a Cleffa as well. But it still gets 2 energy on the field. You had to waste your energy attachment for Squawkabilly. Hopefully you can use it as a pivot. But here's the problem. Bert went first this game. There is a Regidrago on the bench and a 2-price Squawkabilly in the active when Javier's had a very bad start. So Bert's probably gone up 2 prizes already in this game. And the great thing from Bert's point of view, Dragapulse attack KO Squawkabilly, so you don't discard any energy like you would with Giratina or Kyurem or Lost Zone it, and you get those extra 6 damage counters being benched as well.
I mean, it would be even bigger if he manages to find the gusting effect here as well and take out the Palkia. Then Javier would be left with the Radiant Greninja and the Squawkabilly. It's actually such a great turn. I've never seen Squawkabilly be used for both its ability and its attack in the first turn here. So that played out really well. I was like, where are these energies coming from? But the attack motive, not seen used often, but very powerful when you're struggling so much that you might have to use that.
In a deck that doesn't have a good turn 1 play, it's actually quite good turn 1 going second, but it's if you don't have a good turn 1 play and you think you're safe. And the problem is a lot of decks, pretty much every deck at the moment, if you have, your opponent has a turn, you have a turn, and then they have their second turn, most decks can KO a Squawkabilly. It's why you don't want to use it very often, because most of the time, if you use it turn 1 going second, it's not safe. We see an energy switch onto the Regidrago. We see an energy switch onto the Regidrago. I didn't repeat myself. That happened twice. We see an attachment of the fire onto the V. We see a Mew being benched as well. I tell you you what, we are seeing polar opposites here. Javier's start was not good. Oh, Bert's start is incredible. Do we have the Dragon Bolt in the discard? Yeah, we do.
There we go. There's a Dragon Bolt.
No gusting here, but I'm honestly cool with this. You take 2 prizes on Squawkabilly. You put 4 onto the Palkia, 2 onto the Greninja. Greninja now, of course, in Trifrost range. And Palkia, I mean, you needed 2 on there. The extra 2 is quite nice, but bringing it to 200 was the key here.
Yeah, but once it evolves, goes up to 280, so that's 240 then. Don't think there's an easy way to reach 240 specifically, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, any extra damage can be helpful. There's the second Palkia V, but we talked about it. The 2 Palkia V cells are both in the discard pile, and we need to find the one remaining Night Stretcher to get access to that. And that's not going to be an easy ask here. Of course, we technically have access to a Pheasantipity because the knockout was taken here, but it's still quite a long way. We see the counter catcher that can buy you an extra turn, but I mean, Cleffa and Mew, free retreat. 1 Regidrago, do you want to pull that to the active?
Counter catcher onto the Mew. We're actually going to be attacking with Palkia V here. You're going to take 2 prizes with Hydro Break, does 200 damage. But the problem is you're now just in range of Dragapult's attack again. And it's not just the extra damage counters, it's that you discard energy with Kyurem. You lost zone energy with Giratina. When you copy Dragapult's attack, you keep the energy. And one of the biggest issues with Regidrago is keeping that energy flowing. If you're not being attacked, because the Mew's being attacked, and you're not discarding your energy, you're just building up extra attackers. I know we're only a couple of turns in, but I think Bert is in a dominating position in this game.
Very dominating position here. Iono is being played, 6 and 4 cards being drawn respectively. There's a Prime Catcher. I think it's going to come down. We've seen the active Palkia might be KO'd in return, but there's another Palkia ready. And if he finds it either through his deck or through the 2 prizes that Javier will draw, if there's any of the Night Stretches, then you have your Star Portal ready for next turn and having another attacker ready. And I said this before, in this matchup, ideally you want to go 2-2-2 in prizes. Bert has done his part, has taken the first 2 prizes. Javier might return.
Rough poker stop. It does at least get an energy in the discard for Star Portal, but that's about the best that we can say here. The other thing is, you know, it's kind of spiraling for Javier here, because not only is Bert going to get the KO on Palkia, but we know he's going to drop 3 damage counters onto Froakie. So one of the things you would try and do in this matchup was, you know, if it's going bad, you put your Greninja EX active and you go, you can't one-hit KO this. But Bert's going to put it down to low enough HP that he can one-hit KO this, which incidentally will be the final 2 prizes. So I think Bert is already approaching a checkmate situation here. And if I'm Javier, I'm thinking there's 15 minutes. I'm going first in game 3. I've got an advantage going first because we're both set up decks. I don't think Javier's winning this game. And we know, especially when we're looking at top 8 positioning, there is a gigantic difference between a win and a tie. And we've already seen Javier win game 1. This is not a horrendous matchup for Palkia.
It's definitely easier winning this matchup going first here. And yes, there's the second Regidrago. There's a Night Stretcher to get another energy to set up. Actually, oh, is that pinging for 10 damage?
That is
you
pinging
can
for
take
10
out
damage on the
Froakie with the
60
60 and 1 damage counter.
So
that's huge.
Yeah, we're not bringing the Greninja into range, Barish. We're KOing the Froakie. It's a one-off Hawlucha played because there's too many 70 HP Pokemon in the format right now. Bert goes down to 1 prize remaining. Javier has no Greninja EX, no Palkia. He's clearly thinking about the concession here. You see him having a look at the board, flicking at his cards. Yeah, yes, we go. There is a concession. Bert wins game 2. We're going to game 3, and Javier will be going first. So Bert evens it up at 1 game apiece, and we're going to a game 3.
That was so beautiful played. This is exactly how we expect this matchup to play out. You get your pieces on the board, you take the first knockout, you're in the driver's seat from that moment on, and you're basically asking the question, hey, do you have a huge swing turn? Is there any way you can disrupt my whole setup? And if not, then I will just be drawing prizes back to back. You might have seen, not happy with that top deck here, and Javier is eventually realizing it's really hard to come back here. I'd rather use the time in my 3rd game. We see, I think, yeah, there was a Squawkabilly, and then we see the motivator afterwards, but it just wasn't enough. Even the KO and the Mew was just not really advancing you deeper into this game. I think without that Hawlucha, it might have been a different story.
Yeah, we see the KO onto the Squawkabilly there, dropping that damage down. Here comes that Holuchi you mentioned. But even if we didn't see this, I think we would have just seen a KO of Greninja the following turn. The damage from Dragon Bolt proving a bit too much. And then we see Javier just deciding, you know what, I'm not winning this game. Let's go to game 3. Both of these decks need a turn to set up. But if I'm Javier, I'm feeling all right here. Now, the clock is an issue, but we've got 12 minutes plus 3 turns. So if you play at a decent speed, you can get through this game. But if I'm Javier, I'm thinking, look, I went first game 1, I won. Game 2, we have a quick look at the prize. Oh, Radiant Greninja and Pheasant Dipty. No, thank you. They're really good one-offs.
Absolutely, but then on the other side, Bert is starting with that Kyurem. Not a great starter either. Not really, I mean, you can't really use its ability here because there won't be any Colress in the discard pile, but you will have to pivot out of that and use your Regidrago. Mew, on the other hand, free retreat, has its ability, great access early on, and once again, the turn 1 Earth and West, so discarding 1 Water Energy, giving you access to 2 more.
Yeah, it's a great play. To finish my point about Javier here, you won game 1 going first. Game 2, you went second, had 2 Rescue Stretcher, Night Stretcher prized, had to discard a 3rd one and both your Palkia. Like, that's the worst case scenario. You never win in that game. So I'm just thinking, like, okay, game 1 I won. Game 2 was a worst case scenario. Game 3 I'm going first. I've still got a fair bit of confidence if I'm Javier going into this game because you're in a very different position here, although Greninja and Pheasant Dipty prized is actually kind of annoying.
Yeah, the idea is that you will use Pheasant Dipty a little bit later through the game, and maybe, especially going first, you have the option to take prizes. We saw it towards the bottom of the prizes, I believe, or that was a Greninja at least, so eventually you might have access to that. But yes, missing that and potentially going behind and not having access to that could be huge here. On the other hand, do we see a pass with just a Mew on the field?
Oh my word, no Palkia down, no Duskull down, no Froakie down. You discarded Greninja EX off the Pokestop. Oh my word, that was a rough turn 1. And here's the thing, Bert's gone first here.
Basically
like, Javier did nothing of value on his first turn. No energy attachment, no basics benched which can evolve. So Javier has no advantage in energy attachment, has no advantage in evolution here. So Bert is essentially going first here.
Yeah, you might be thinking, you could have considered earlier and have even more time, but keep in mind, sometimes playing it out and seeing if you have any option might be better than just starting with a single Mew, no energy on the board, no Palkia in play. So it's not guaranteed that, or it's not impossible to lose a game going fast here.
No, absolutely. If this went like game 1, I'd be loving Javier's play and Javier's position here. But that was a very bad opening hand, and now Bert's doing Bert things. We've got a fire energy on the Regidrago, we've got an energy on the Teomas Gogapon. We're going to squawk and seize, because you're not worried about Palkia, because there is no Palkia.
Absolutely, you can fill your bench as much as you like. You already have quite a few attackers in your discard pile. I think I saw the Noi one hit the discard pile. Giratina was there with the early Pokestop. So you're just setting up your whole board state here. Another Ogabon Teal Mask, getting energies into play. And I think there's going to be huge turn 2 setting up for Bert here in the following, in the future, basically. But all the pieces we need, another second grass energy, another draw with a boss in hand, if that really is important here. Energy switch, I mean, just everything you could really ask for.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal first turn. 3 energy on the board, 2 of them on the Regidrago. And, you know, the only downside there is a suboptimal starting, well, a bad starting Pokemon, but still. Okay, we see 3 items off a Pokestop. Imagine if we got some basics down turn 1.
That would
and then
be
you hit
huge.
a rare candy and an Ultra Ball off of a Pokestop.
That would be huge. But at least with the Nest Ball and the Ultra Ball, access to 2 Pokemon here. Of course, you would have really loved to see that Greninja that maybe was looked for in the first turn, but is in the prizes. Just checking, I guess it's a Palkia that needs to hit the bench here, but it's also a prime target to be. We saw the boss being picked up from that last draw in turn there. So it's already, you kind of need 2 Palkia in play.
And the annoying thing here is Javier actually has a Night Stretcher in hand. Had he been able to bench a Froakie turn 1, he had Rare Candy and Night Stretcher for Greninja in hand. Could have had a turn 2 Greninja rolling, hitting 170, searching any card, KO and a Kyurem and all of that. But as it is at the moment, just Bad start. We see Lost Vacuum getting rid of Pokestop just to limit. Oh, to play another one. Love that play.
That's a huge combo, of course. You could have thought maybe you wanted to get rid of the Pokestop to prevent the opponent from using it, but just the second one ready in hand and another 2 items. Tracking shoes, looking at your deck, Night Stretcher, a nice card here, but I don't think it brings them any further into the game. And then, of course, if you don't take the Night Stretcher, you might draw another card, but it goes straight into the hand.
Yeah, it's a problem with Night Stretcher is it's such a good card. There's a reason you play 4 of them. You know, there's only really Duskull in the discard at the moment you could want, but it's going to be useful in the future. So Irida here, I'm imagining we probably go Froakie.
Ooh, there's a heavy ball to get you either Greninja or Pheasantipity out of the prizes, both as basic Pokemon. So
Froakie as well.
Froakie as your water Pokemon target, and then any item of your choice could be the Hisuian Heavy Ball if you're not happy with your prizes.
Oh, it's got to be Hisuian Heavy Ball in this game, Barris, surely.
Yeah,
oh, actually going Palkia V over Froakie, okay. And look, this is absolutely valid. This is a good play. You need your Palkia V-Star. My only pause here is you have Rare Candy Night Stretcher in hand. So if you go for the Froakie, you know for a fact you can get the Greninja EX next turn, and it is a single energy attacker, so you've got everything you already need. But I think this is a case of, I know my Palkia is in danger. I know that a Gust could KO my only Palkia. I need Palkia V-Star next turn. So if I only bench 1 Palkia V, I'm not guaranteeing a V-Star next turn, and that is not a risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah, that's why you see some of these decks using or making sure that they have 2 on the bench, exactly as you have explained. We see the Hisuian Heavy Ball. We have concealed cards active now. That's exactly what's happening here. Drawing 2 more cards out of your deck, or from the top of your deck. There's the Froakie, actually.
Oh, that's wonderful. Drawing into the Froakie is beautiful. One of the issues here, of course, is that we saw what happened in the last game when a Froakie got benched mid-game.
Yeah, we saw the Hawlucha adding up together with the damage from Dragapult, placing 6 damage counters, exactly working out to take 70 damage on that. On the other hand, we see a Duskull, but that only has 60 HP, so that's an easy knockout there as well. And you kind of want to make sure if you play Duskull, play 2 of them so that at least 1 survives the turn as well.
Yeah, and the thing I'm looking at is how many bench Pokemon does Bert have right now?
4 of them.
There's a space there for Hawlucha, so that's why we're seeing the hesitancy with Froakie here, because there is a bench. Now, with a full bench, you can bench a Froakie knowing it's going to survive. But with a bench space there, it's risky, and you've absolutely called it. Bench 2 Duskull, so if 1 goes down from the residual damage from that Phantom Dive, you at least have another one ready to go. But what we're seeing from Javier here is I'm behind. Even though I went first, I'm behind. I've got to bench 2 Palkia in case 1 gets KO'd. I've got to bench 2 Duskull in case 1 gets KO'd. I've got to use my Hisuian Heavy Ball for Radiant Greninja and ignore my Pheasantipity. And it's reacting to things outside of your control that you'd rather not have to.
Yeah, and Ultra Ball is such a great card in this deck, not only because of the effect of searching any Pokemon out of your deck, but you get to discard 2 cards. Sometimes it's a high cost to pay, but in this case, he was able to discard the Dragapult as well, a prime target for one of your attacks from Apex Dragon here as well. So that's really nice to get that both at the same time, getting your Regidrago V-Star into play, but also discarding another one of those possible attackers. On the other side, one thing I want to bring up, Kyurem in the active. Not only is it somewhat stuck in the active, but at the same time, you can't use its attack because it's not in the discard pile. So Triforce that could potentially take both Duskulls out of play here is not an option as long as it's in the field. Even if you retweet it, it's on the bench and it's not in your discard pile.
Yeah, that's, Triforce right now would be a really fun attack. You also get an extra 110 damage onto a Mew or a Palkia. Now, and here we go, and I love the way Bert is playing this game. It is wonderful to me. You leave a bench space open to leave the Hawlucha play open in case a Froakie goes down. Froakie can't go down. Now I can fill up my bench with a Regidrago. That is not a coincidence. Bert is doing this very deliberately.
Very conscious of his decisions there, keeping all the options open. Energy Switch, just a very common card here. And we see the Cyclone would actually...
No, we're seeing a V-Star Power coming down here. So now we get 2 cards from the discard pile, one of which I think, yeah,
Yeah, sorry. The point I want to make is that that Cyclone would allow you to actually pick up that Kyurem and get your attacker into place. That was one way to pivot out.
Now, I'm loving this play. We see an energy switch. Are we going to see? We've got Ultra Ball Kyurem in hand. We could see a Trifrost here. That would be an option.
Absolutely, you wouldn't have to gust any of the V-stars or any of the Vs into active and think about KOs. You just take 2 knockouts and set up a future KO, because a 110 sticking on any of the EX or any of the 2 prizes allows you to pick them up afterwards.
Okay, does look like we are just going for a more traditional Dragapult attack there, KOing the Radiant Greninja, dropping 6 damage counters onto the Duskull, and I prefer this play. Trifrost makes you discard all your energy. That's really annoying. You're taking 2 prizes, including Radiant Greninja. There's no Pheasantipity down on the board, so that, yeah. Trifrost would have been fun, but Dragapult was the way to go.
Yeah, very good point here. Trifrost might be more an end-game attack where you can afford to discard your energies. Some players I saw online were discussing that Trifrost early on is actually such a negative with free energies gone here. So yeah, absolutely good point there. So we have the Palkia and the active. I see a Froakie in hand, but it's not really an option here this late in the game. So there's the Ultra Ball, and I think we will have to look out for that Palkia V-Star as a possible attacker. 1 energy already attached. I don't see a second in hand. There's a Night Stretcher that could get you 1. Star Portal could get you some. But yeah, there's plenty of options to get energies into play. We see Ultra Ball actually for the Dusknoir. I think there was a rare candy in hand as well, so you can evolve that. But yeah, the possible KO would be Subspace Well plus Curse Blast, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's what we're looking at here. Curse Blast plus Subspace Well would then get the KO on that active Regidrago. And it's not perfect, but at least that bench Regidrago, there's no fire energy, you don't have the evolution yet. There is still a chance that the attack is whiffed. We do see the Froakie hitting the bench here. Now, this is awkward, because if you use Dusknoir, that puts Bert down to 3 prizes. Froakie then becomes a really potentially easy single prize attacker. That leaves Bert just 1 KO away. So that is potentially awkward, but you need to take the risk, I think, at this stage. So we see Night Stretcher for the energy, and I think we're eyeing up an
Iono to actually... The 131st, of course, allowing your opponent to draw an extra card, but that also means an extra prize, but also means Iono down to 3 cards back in hand here, and there's no Pheasantipity yet in play, so that could come in handy and give Javier an opening here. Cards go to the bottom of the deck, as we know, and there will be 6 fresh cards from Javier. They also put the Radiant Greninja into play, so if there's a spare energy in hand, you can use that concealed cards to draw into even 2 more cards and give you the cards that you're looking for. Is there a V-Star in hand? There's the Golden V-Star.
And there is a Night Stretcher if there isn't any energy, so you've definitely got the energy. Oh, we got energy already. There's Night Stretcher for future. That's what I mean here. So here comes the KO, and Javier here, it is crossing fingers time. There is absolutely a possibility that Bert just goes energy, Regidrago V-Star, KO Palkia, get rid of all the energy off the board, and that is a very awkward situation because then it's 1 prize remaining. Oh, we've actually got fire energy in hand already. Do we have the V-Star? Oh, we're using Pokestop. There goes Mew, there goes Regidrago V, there goes Grass Energy. That wasn't ideal. There goes the energy. Do we have the V-Star? Oh, we have Professor's research here.
We need the V-Star. I'm just thinking through this turn. There's no gusting effect left now with the research, actually. Otherwise, you could have got
Doesn't have the V-Star, but does have an Ultra Ball. Okay, that'll do it.
I was just thinking, is there any 3-star turn here, potentially? And Howlucha plus KOing Mew and getting these 6 extra damage onto the Froakie could be 3 prizes in 1 turn here.
Yes.
But we need the Howlucha, and we would need a gusting effect onto the Mew. So now Professor's research was already played, so Boss's Order is no longer an option here. And let's see how this play actually turns out. Maybe want to increase the chances or making sure that the V-Star is hitting the deck, so you have an... Maybe, I mean, was it one of them priced? I'm not sure. but just making sure the Hawlucha goes also back into the deck here. So that might be in play that Bert was eyeing.
Yeah, see, what I'm thinking here, if I'm Bert, I want the Hawlucha. I want to take out the Froakie, because the Froakie can evolve next turn and then prevent, you know, give me a bit of an awkward situation. I don't need to KO the Palkia, because the Palkia isn't threatening a KO with no Dusknoir on the board. So take out the Greninja or the Froakie, 2 prizes remaining, heavily damaged Palkia, and I think we're in turn 1 of time, are we not?
That looks like what it is, so which means Bert will have the current turn, it goes back to Javier, and then 1 more. So Bert has 2 turns, which gives them a lot of time to take the remaining 3 prizes here. On the other side, Javier, with no Dusknoir, no Duskull evolution line in play at all, it looks a little bit tricky. We have seen mysteries yesterday where there were 4 prize turns here. This one looks a little bit more difficult this time. Not I don't want to say it's impossible, but it looks very hard here. So we see all the cards being played out, the V-Star hitting the field as well, the retreat cost, or would you...
There's the V-Star. Then we are just manually retreating the Teal Mask Ogerpon. Are we going to see a Hawlucha coming down? Well, I don't think we are, actually. I don't think there's access to it in the hand. So, no, we need 3 prizes in 2 turns. That is very, 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 very important. The issue here becomes... Oh, then this is tricky now, because, yeah, that's what I was going to say. You have to use Giratina's attack, because if you drop the damage on the Froakie and the Froakie evolves, you haven't taken a KO this turn and there's no free prize next turn. With the Hawlucha, you didn't have to do that. Without it, you had to. But the problem is, well, now it is literally you need Greninja. You have to get Greninja EX. That is the only thing that can survive a hit from Giratina's attack.
On the other side, there's 3 bench Pokemon here. If you fill up your bench, Subspace Swell is still not enough without any further indications.
Doesn't get that.
Yeah.
Goes up to 260, which admits it. There is the Greninja EX. So we've got the Greninja, we've got the Energy, we've got the Mew. It will force Bert into having some gusting in order to finish the game next turn. Bert's down to 1 prize, but I'm pretty sure I remember a boss's orders in hand. You're pointing excitedly, Barish. I think you agree with me there. I think there's 1 in his hand.
Yeah, so that possible hand disruption here. Bert is down to 1 single card. So I think I see an Iono in hand there that could come in very handy and limit the options. And there's also, I mean, I don't really think Javier can take a KO easily. But the Iono at least... we see, I think he's hovering over it. Yeah, there's the Iono in play. Puts Bert down to 1 single card.
You have to here. Essentially, Javier's going, look, maybe with a bunch of Dusknoir I can pull off an unlikely win. I don't have a bunch of Dusknoir, so Javier's not winning this game, but Bert's got 1 prize remaining. You can put an un-KOable Pokemon into the active. So then the question becomes, does Bert have Gusting? And here's the thing, there's no Pheasant Dipty on the board. You've already used your V-Star power, so the chances of hitting it are getting lower and lower.
Yeah, and we're talking about the facility. It actually hit the discard pile very early on, I believe, in the game. We're talking how difficult it is to get that back. We're looking for the discard pile to maybe get an eye on that right now. There's a Facility in the discard pile.
Is there a Night Stretcher in the discard?
Yeah, it was Airy.
And he only plays 1, so there will be no Pheasant Dipty there. There is a Super Rob, but we saw that played the previous turn. So Pheasant Dipty's not an option here.
No more draw power, and Pokestop, of course, gets you items card, but not supporters. So you can use it, but you might as well discard your boss and not have access to it either. So it's going to be interesting. I didn't really have a chance to see what the one-off was that Bert draw.
Oh, no, he's being very cagey. He is not showing us, Barish. We have no idea what that card is.
Yeah, okay. Another Ultra Ball. Fin your hand. Take another Pokemon. Dusknoir, I mean, doesn't really have a target to evolve here anyway. Mew was already used. Concealed Cards was already used. I think there's only 1 Pokestop really left for this turn. You have your free retreat. You have a Shinobi Blade possible. Let's see how that Pokestop plays out.
Here it goes. Oh, Counter Catcher and Prime Catcher. So this is actually really important here, because now you can make Bert have Gusting and a pivoting option. So, you know, Energy Boss's orders would now be potentially an issue. So, now we do 170. It doesn't
resisted,
KO.
Actually, it doesn't KO.
Yeah, because of the resistance. So, we need a... Oh, he's using that. Do we see any kind of pivot? Nothing useful there. We've got... Oh, there's nothing, I don't think.
There's a Paw Pad and a Dragapult in hand.
Now, we do have Energy from the Earthen Vessel. We do have Pow Pad. Oh, and you can get grass energy here to draw cards with Teal Mask. Oh!
It's going to be one draw.
Yeah, but you need a switching card for your Squawkabilly. If you attach to the Teal Mask Ogapon, do you have any way of getting energy onto Squawkabilly to then retreat it?
I don't think we have.
I don't see any kind of, and you know,
is even any energy retrieval potentially?
Not seeing it. Even energy switch would work here. You attach to the Ogapon, energy switch it over to Squawkabilly and retreat.
That was not the one in hand, and I don't think it was in deck either. Running out of option, that gusting option. Like, it looks like Javier took this catch 'em all very serious, got the counter catcher and the prime catcher off that Pokestop, and that might exactly what got him not back into this game. He went first, didn't have the best start, and if you can't win it, you might as well. I mean, it's not good for either player, but like, you'd rather go out with the tie than lose this match.
And that one match point from the tie could be what gets you into asymmetrical top car. 1 point is a lot better than 0.
Absolutely here. Bert is going through all the options.
I mean, you have to attach a Grat. I don't see any way to take a prize on the bench. There's nothing which is in Trifrost range. There's, you know, you can get close with Greninja, but not enough. I mean, Hawlucha plus Trifrost would potentially put Greninja 10 damage away, but that's not enough. You can do 280 to the active, but that's not enough. You don't have enough cards in the Lost Zone to be able to pull off Greninja's V-Star power, and even if you could, you've used your V-Star power for the turn.
Let's see where the grass energy goes. It goes to the active to make it possible to retreat.
There's no gusting there. Your hand is Ultra Ball Pal Pad.
Pal Pad, was there any more draw afterwards? I don't think so.
Here's the thing, right? If there wasn't a counter catcher from Javier there, you can put your boss's orders into the deck, attach your grass energy to Teal Mask Ogapon. It's not guaranteed, but you've got a decent chance there of pulling it off with the Squawkabilly in the active, and that's why Javier played the turn for so long with essentially no other option to win, because this was what you were hoping for. Now,
looking through, is there any option to get...
It's Dragapult. You'll do 200 to the active, drop 6 damage counters onto the Squawkabilly, but I think this is Bert's last
see the fist
turn.
bump.
There's the fist bump, and I do believe that will be a tie. Bert, so close at the end of that game, not able to actually pull off the win in the end, and it was the counter catcher. We don't know if Bert would have got the boss's orders, but we do know we could have put the boss back with the power pad and drawn with the teal dance. There would have been an option.
Time management is so huge in these late game rounds here. I mean, we saw the second game not going well. Maybe scooping a little bit earlier would have given you more time, but it would also have given your opponent more time to give one more turn and potentially take you out there with a bad start. But of course, going into any game, you assume or you are hoping for a good start, even though that was not met in game 3.
Yeah, and you've got to feel a bit for Javier there, because game 1, you played so well, you did such a good job, and then game 2, you had a terrible start, basically being locked out of Palkia V-Star for the game. Game 3, you go first, but you have a lone Mew, attach no energy, bench no basic Pokemon, pass to your opponents, you essentially end up going second. And this is just, it is like the worst case scenario here.
Yeah, it's not only you're like going second, but you suddenly give your opponent the first turn with a supporter option as well. And that's even a bigger advantage that you would like it to have be. But on the other hand, it was just not enough for Bert to close out this game. One prize short.
So close, could not get the gusting. Well, let's take a look at the replay then, remind ourselves of how that best of 3 went. We start off in game 1, where we had just these phenomenal Pokestops from Javier. We saw 3 items.
Another one.
Comes down with 3 items. And, you know, game 1 was really where Javier's deck was rocking and rolling. Lots of thinking to be done. But in game 1, it worked out nicely. We saw the KO on the Regidrago with damage on the active as well. And Bert reading that card going, oh, no. That is what it does, isn't it?
The really nice thing about Greninja EX is you accelerate free energy to the Froakie, you use Mirage Barrage, you discard 2 energies, but then you have left the Shinobi Blade, which is one advantage which Greninja has over Radiant Greninja, which after Moonlight Shuriken doesn't have any attack left over. We see the Prime Catcher here to seal out the first game, and it looked so commanding. Like, yes, he was going first, but he drew everything he needed, but this was the mood of the second game.
Yeah, it was not a good start. We had that score concede, getting rid of both Palkia and a Night Stretcher. With 2 Night Stretcher prized already, meant Javier just had no access to Palkia, and Bert's deck started rolling. He played this game phenomenally. We see the KO on the Squawkabilly, with the damage there going down in the right places, making sure that those KOs would keep coming. Yeah. Javier did get a consolation KO on the Mew, but Bert just came up and it was too much. Javier conceded.
Yeah, and then, I mean, game 3 just opened up. Single Mew, no way to access any of the potential other Pokemon you want to have in play. And yes, further throughout this game you set up, but it was a little bit too late. 2 prizes being taken there, with Dragapulse taking one of the Duskull, and the activating Ninja even limits more. You're drawing power there, and then it was just KO after KO. And Javier at this point only had 1 out. Let me not lose.
Yeah, and here we go with your counter catcher and prime catcher hit off of the Pokestop. You bring the Squawkabilly in the active, and Bert was not able to find any kind of gusting. So we do a big attack, we get a bunch of damage on the board, but we don't finish off, and we end in a tie. And honestly, if I'm Javier then, I finished game 1 and I'm like, I'm getting my 3 match points, I'm going into top 8, and by the time I get to the end of game 3, I am delighted that I finished with a tie and salvaged that 1 match point.
Absolutely delighted to take away 1 point here, increasing your odds to potentially advance, but also any placement beyond top 8 is also great, and any point helps you towards it. So there will be 1 more Swiss round, 3 more points up for grab, and yeah, I mean, your final placement will depend on how many points you can rack up throughout the weekend. He was at 811, that's 25 points. He's at 26 now. Maximum you can go is 29. Potentially out of competition here, depending on how the rest of the field will play out. We saw 30 was like a benchmark to hit, but yeah, let's see going into this last round what the current standings will be, and then whether 29 or 30, 31, where the threshold will be.
Well, I mean, I think we can say that Kaiwan Kababe is probably into top 8 at this point. I know we've still got a round to play. Kaiwan is sitting at 10 wins and 1 tie with that Regidrago V-Star deck, so I feel very confident. Here's the thing about Kaiwan here. If you intentionally tie, and you may not have an opportunity to do so, but you may, you can probably even avoid any possibility of an asymmetrical top cut go straight into that top 8. So Kaiwan in a phenomenal position. If you're following the UK players at home, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is Ethan Wild won last round to go to 28 match points, putting himself on a potential winning in for top 8. The bad news is the player that he played was Luke Kirkham with that Gouging Fire deck. So Luke at this stage sitting on 25 points with 1 round to go, probably not making it into top 8. Joshua Van Overschild, got a lot of fans out there, sitting at 10-1 with Lugia, 30 points. I don't think they're guaranteed safe at this point, but I think they are in a very, very strong position.
And of course, anyone with 30 points also has the option to ID, go to 31, and then most likely secure their placement in top 8 here. Of course, we already have the next round pairings available to us, and I was just browsing through them. And on the top tables, we have Lugia over Lugia. I see Joshua that you just mentioned on table 2. We have a Lugia mirror with Ethan that you mentioned, and Nicolas on table 3. And then Gardevoir, Raging Bull, Terrapagos. There's a variety, but what stands out to me is the Lugias taking those top spots.
Yeah, Lugia and Regidrago really are, although actually I'll tell you that Regidrago, we got the top seed with Kaiwan at the moment, and you know, we've got James Cox at 27 points also there. We do have a Terrapagos, Nico Alabas sitting on 27 points, so we've still got a little bit of variety, but it is Regidrago and Lugia still rising to the top here. So our guess is 30 points probably safe. 31 points we're confident is safe. Kaiwan's at 31, Josh is at 30, everybody else, and there isn't even anyone on 29, I don't think. No one on 29. So everyone else needs a win this round.
So we will probably feature some win and ins here to see how those go. But yeah, on top of all that, one deck that you haven't mentioned that is currently playing against Kaiwan at that table number 1 is the Snorlax stall or control deck, so to say. And I feel like